All right, welcome. I am so glad that you are here today. Let me just get over here so that I can see all your smiling faces on my screen. So thank you for being here. Obviously, today is the 24 topics of the MREA and this fantastic book that is our kind of our guidepost, and I call it our Bible. Yeah, look at that. I love it. It's kind of our Bible. It's the set of models and systems that creates a paint by number system that is very unique to us at Keller Williams and that really allows an agent to plug in and decide, regardless of what they want to earn, the exact steps, the exact numbers, the exact, like their schedule. It gives us exactly what they need to do. And I think that in addition to career visioning, the MREA is one of our secret weapons or our nuclear weapons that allows us to be different than everyone else. And if you think about it this way, we are the only company that literally wrote the book on how to succeed as a real estate agent, with the high watermark being, what does it look like to come in, launch your business, grow your business, and ultimately start off by receiving $1 million and then ultimately netting $1 million of income. And I think that when it comes to understanding the MREA, which is one of the very big goals of this series, I really want you guys to internalize. I want it to be a part of your vernacular. I want it to really go into your nervous system, because when you have this tool and this resource inside you, recruiting with the MREA and retaining with the MREA becomes a completely different conversation than what anyone else is having out there. And without it, we're just simply being every other real estate company. With it, we have the power to change lives. And I think that when I think about careers worth having, businesses worth owning, lives worth living, experiences worth giving, and legacies worth leaving, this is our pathway to do that. So that's the goal of the series. Obviously, we're going to have one of our leaders teach each week so that you can internalize it. And as you guys know, that I always say, the best Sunday school class is always the one that you teach. When you teach the material, it's over 90% comprehension. Where you guys sitting here today, we're going to do some activities, but I still know at best it's going to be 20 or 25% comprehension. So that's why we're here. Out of curiosity, who can tell me how the MREA book came to be? Does anyone know? Anyone other than Heather first?
Didn't he talk to his beginning agents, like his millionaire agents, on what they did to succeed?
Partially, yeah, partially. Heather, do you want to chime in?
Well, so how Gary created the book, Bradley, was he actually decided he does what Gary loves to do. He loves to interview top agents. So he went to top agents all across the country. He didn't care if they were with KW or not with KW. And he just asked them about what they were doing, how they were doing it, like what are the models and systems you're using to actually hit a million. And when he did that, he then started creating all of the models that are the KW models today. They're literally models based off of, I always like to explain it like it's based off people's mistakes, right? Because you had to make mistakes to learn how to do it right. So if you don't want to make the same mistakes that they made, follow the model. You'll make different mistakes, but not the same ones. So that's how he actually wrote the MREA.
Yeah. And to really add to that, Gary fundamentally, when we were in the late 90s, early 2000s, he went to his top people, and true to how he thinks, he always goes to his top people and asks, what do you think? What's your input? And he went to his top people and he said, how do we continue to grow and scale this company? And the answer that he got was, let's do research and let's figure out how to teach our agents how to grow teams of any scale and any size. So with that insight, Gary started to interview top agents. And in fact, it was over 100 top agents that he interviewed. And when I talk about this book, I always open to the back. The interviews that were used are actually in here. This was 2001. This was Tim Wood. He did 275 units for 38 million and 1.5 million of gross commission income. We have Sherry Wilson, who was doing 351 units for 102 million, over 3 million of gross commission income. The granddaddy of the book was doing 624 units every single year. And what he did is he studied the best practices of these agents and said, what's the common denominator? What's common amongst all of these businesses? And as Gary put it, he wrote the Frankenstein of best practices. So it is about following the model, and then it's also looking at where do we need to modify the model. And what I mean by that is when we get into some of the models, depending on the skills of the agent, their behavioral profile, the life circumstances. And what I mean by that is sometimes if you've got a single agent that is single themselves and they have unlimited time to devote to real estate, they may be able to hire at a different spot than a single mom with 3 kids that are all in sports. They may have to hire earlier. So again, this is all based on best practices, and yet it's about being the best that you can be. The last thing that I'll say on this in the opening is it really says it on the book. It's not about the money. It's about being the best you can be. The MREA is really an aspirational book also. And what I mean by that is it inspires agents to think about what's possible in their business in a way that they usually don't think about it. And put a different way, I do believe that every agent comes into this business with a goal and a dream and a hope. And they feel like if they come into this industry, the industry will change their life forever. And then what happens? Well, reality shows up because we're going to talk about this. Intuitively knowing what to do in this industry it's not intuitive. You don't just wake up and go, I think I should get up at probably 7:30 and do the MREA energy plan, and by 9 o'clock be in my office, have my lead generation structure in place, call from 9 to 11, do lead conversion, lead follow-up 11 to 12. And I think I should probably schedule 2 appointments. I'm going to schedule those at 3:30 and 5:30. And if I just follow that schedule every day, I will make $1 million a year. And by the way, I can work 5 days a week. No agent comes to the table thinking that. Marielle's laughing because it's true. And so this book is about teaching the agents what's possible and then how to do it. What are the step-by-step processes? So that's our goal today, is to really dive deep into the MREA. Let me start with, and I'm going to share my screen here, and I'm going to start with a quiz just to see where we are and what we know. Okay, can you guys see my screen? Perfect. Let me focus that so that
it's like blurry.
Yeah, let's not do that. Autofocus is our friend. Okay, so I'd like you guys to just, on your own, you can put it in the chat if you like. Tell me, what are the 4 stages of growth on the pathway to $1 million? And for the purposes of time, maybe let's just shout it out if you know it.
Yeah.
Growth,
Okay.
net, receive, give.
Okay, great. Yeah, it is. Tell me what the first one was.
Gross $1 million,
Okay.
net $1 million, receive $1 million, give $1 million.
Okay. It's actually different.
Okay.
What's different about the 4
Earn,
stages of growth? What starts first?
gross $1 million.
Okay, great. So life is lived inside to the outside, and it's the spiritual to the physical. So the first thing is we have to think $1 million. Then we have to earn $1 million. Then we have to net $1 million. And then we have to receive $1 million. And there's another one that's give $1 million that we've added to that, is how do we then turn around and give $1 million back? Okay, so think, earn, net, and receive. Number 2, what are the 3 L's of the MREA, which, by the way, is what we're going to be covering today. So the class title gives it away.
Listing, leads, leverage.
Okay, great. Listings, leads, leverage, and in that order, for a very specific purpose. Okay. Next one, number 3, what are the 4 fundamental models of the real estate, of the MREA?
Economic, lead gen, budget.
Organizational.
Okay, so you think elbow. By the way, what page number is the 4 fundamental models demonstrated on?
140, is it 130 something or 140 something? We just went over this.
One,
Okay.
122 right here. These are the four fundamental models. It starts with the economic model. So all the numbers that drive the success of the agent. Then it's the lead generation model. Where do the leads come from to drive the appointments? Then it's the budget model. It's how do we play red light, green light with our expenses and know where to spend money so that we make an appropriate rate of return. And an example is that in the budget model, $1 spent should create a $10 return. And so when agents are buying Zillow leads and they're spending, they're spending $1 and they're getting $1.10 back, or worse, they're spending $1 and losing 50 cents. That's why the budget model is there. It guides us in the decision making. And then last, it's that organizational model. It's when you're doing all you can do. Now you have to rely on people and systems. And so who do you need to bring into your world? Now, the one thing that's important to know about the MREA is there are two versions. We have MREA 1, which is the version that we're working from today. There is MREA 2. Gary has not released that book yet. And he says the reason he hasn't is because A, not much has changed, although there are some changes that have happened. And B, he's like, our agents haven't even mastered MREA 1 yet. Why would we move on to 2? So that's Gary for you. All right, let's talk about what are the 4 laws of lead generation. And Rebecca, let somebody else have an opportunity.
Build your database. Feed it systematically.
Close,
Wait,
close.
skip one. Did I skip one?
No, you're close. So build your database. That is number 1.
Okay.
Can the crowd help her out? Feed it
Every
daily.
day.
Daily.
Okay.
Follow up with the leads. Service the leads is the 4th one. I can't remember the 3rd one.
Okay, who can help her with the 3rd one?
Isn't it lead follow-up?
Okay, so the 4 laws of lead generation is really great conversation. Why we're doing this? It's build a database. Build a database. That number 1 way for agents to succeed is through the database. Then it's to feed it daily. So add new people to it and add information about your people to it. Then it's interact with it systematically using a 36 touch, which probably today is a 72 touch, which means you're interacting with your customer 1 touch every 5 to 10 days throughout the year. And if you think about a best friend that calls you or interacts with you every 5 days, you probably feel like you're pretty psychologically close to that person. You've got proximity. And then lastly, it's service all the leads that come from it and do it with a focus on value and service. And so those are the 4 laws of lead generation. Moving on to the next question. Number 6 is lead with blank, not blank. Lead with blank, not blank. Rebecca, I know you probably know this one, so you want to help out? You're
on
muted.
mute.
Let me unmute you. There you
Okay. Lead with revenue, not, sorry, my brain, not
go. Okay. Not expenses.
expenses.
So yeah, in real estate, it's not build it and they will come. It's lead with revenue. This is why we teach our agents to lead generate, because it costs how much to pick the phone up and have a conversation? 0. It costs a lot of money to go put your name on park benches and the bus and all this other movie theaters, all these other things. And so we want to lead with revenue, not expenses. And the thing to remember is the MREA is actually the exact same thing that we do in our leadership teams. Our market centers are nothing more than a mega agent operation that took 1 step up in the process, which what I mean by that is market center leadership teams are a rainmaking team. They just stopped lead generating for buyers and sellers, and they started lead generating for agents that want to lead generate for buyers and sellers. So we're all in the same business. And in fact, as OP, I just stopped lead generating for buyers and sellers and then became a team leader and started to lead generate for agents. And then now I lead generate for team leaders and talent that then will lead generate for agents that lead generate for buyers and sellers. So we're all in the exact same business. We all operate exactly the same. What are the 3 key hires of the MREA?
Admin first,
Mhm.
Bingo.
buyer agent.
Er,
No,
Close.
PC,
Second admin.
Yeah, second admin.
oh, 2 admins, then the buyer agent.
Correct. Yes. So level 1 team is agent only. Level 2 team, and this is found on page 202. So again, it's important for you to know your page numbers when you're working with this material. But your first 3 key hires become you, then your first assistant. And we're going to talk a little bit about that first key hire today. Then at level 3, we've broken apart the marketing and the administration from the transaction coordination. So Darlene, you were correct on that. And then at the 4th level, you add leverage on the buy side. And this shows lead buyer's agent, but the reality is we should hire a showing specialist first and let them earn the right to then move up and be a buyer's agent. And we do that because our cost of sale is a lot less with a showing specialist than with a buyer's agent. And you can recuperate, especially when you're in the messy middle of the budget model, you can recuperate more of your dollars until that person is really graduated to that next role. Okay, so those are the first 3 key hires. What does RTCK stand for?
You gonna wait?
Anyone know it? Go for it, Rebecca.
Recruit, train, consult, keep.
And that applies to what?
That hiring.
Yeah, talent. Yep, talent. Okay. What is the 80-20 rule?
20% of the people do 80% of the business.
Okay, yeah.
20% of your focus is
say,
realizing 80% of your results.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that in a moment. 20% of your activities lead to 80% of your results, and conversely, 80% of the activities lead to 20% of the results. Okay. What is the MREA energy plan? All by 7 a.m.
Thought it was by 11.
I'm sorry.
A.
You are correct. It is by 11 a.m. My apology, Heather. I
No
said
worries.
7, didn't I? All right, let
Mhm.
me show this to you. So the MREA energy plan is meditate and pray for spiritual energy early in the day. Exercise and eat for your physical energy. Hug, kiss, and laugh for your emotional energy. Plan and calendar for your mental energy, and then lead generate for your business energy. This is the MREA business plan or energy plan. And this is in the back of the MREA. Last question, 11. Think what, aim what, act what, and live what?
Think big, aim high, act now, live abundantly.
Very close. First 2 are correct. How do we want to act? By the way, we have a class coming up that's the word act bold. Yeah. So think big, aim high, act bold, and live large. Live large, right from the MREA. Now, here's what's interesting about this. When you look at the book, the MREA, the first 96 pages are all about what? There's about 360 pages in the book. What are the first 96 pages about?
Thinking.
It's how we think. It's all dedicated to just simply thinking. So I think that that's an important distinction to keep in mind. So today we're going to be starting on page, we're going to be on page 97 to start with. And on page 97, it's going to talk about the 80-20 rule. So I'm going to pop this back up. I'm going to share my screen so you can see it. Sorry, my sniffles today. This is the 80-20 rule. Gary says there's an amazing principle in life that when fully understood will change your life forever. And I will tell you, I feel the same way. The 80-20 rule came from the Italian economist Pareto, who discovered this law of disproportionality. You notice that 20% of the landowners owned 80% of the land. And when he looked at his garden, he realized that about 20% of the seeds that he planted produced 80% of his fruit. And it became the law of the 80-20, or the law of disproportionate outcomes. It was also discussed in the groundbreaking book, The 80-20 Principle, that describes the rule as the principle of greatest outcome for time and effort expended. And in the Red Book on page 98, it says, most people believe that time and effort alone deliver results. And while this may be true, the 80-20 rule teaches us that time and effort on the 20% that really matter delivers 80% of our outcome. And so, as figure 8 reveals, the opposite is also true. When we have agents that focus on 20%, I'm sorry, on 80% activities, they get 20% results. Now, when Gary did the research, he found out that there were a specific number of tasks that had to be done initially by the solo agent and then by each individual role in a real estate transaction. As a curiosity, how many tasks were on that task list by role and function? In other words, how many tasks do you have to be good at to be a real estate agent? Anyone know?
50 something?
192.
Good job, Rebecca. 192. So when we're interacting with our agents, we want to be talking about the fact that, especially new agents, there is a lot to do. There's a lot to learn. In fact, there's 192 distinct tasks that you have to be good at. But the reality is there is a tiny few of those that actually matter the most. And Heather and I like to laugh at this because we were both taught this differently, and yet it was the similar. She has the 5 things, I have the 7 things. So Heather, my call today. I'm joking.
Rude.
It's lead generate, go on listing appointments, go on buyer appointments, negotiate contracts, focus on scripts and dialogues, study the market, and work in your business, or work on your business, not in your business. Those are the 7 things.
And lead
that produce-
follow-up.
I'm sorry, lead follow-up. Thank you. Lead generation, lead follow-up, and lead conversion, listing appointments, buyer appointments, negotiate contracts, study the market, work on your business, not in your business, and practice your scripts and dialogues. Those 7 things produce probably 90% of the results for a real estate agent. And yet, what do most agents do when they first come into the business?
Make a pretty listing presentation.
Great flyers.
Buy business cards.
Yep, business cards. What else?
Work on their social media.
Yeah. Which, by the way, nowadays can be lead generation, but is it the most effective lead generation? Depends on what they're doing.
Passive.
Yeah. So the reality is we have to really make sure that we focus on those things. Now, Heather, you boil it down to 5. Rattle your 5 off real quick.
Lead generate, lead follow-up, go on appointments, negotiate contracts, and script and role play.
Yeah.
And
Very
I
good.
would say the contracts could be buyers or sellers. So I'll use it with a buyer's agent. The buyer's agent has the exact same job as a listing agent. It's just all about buyers, right? You're going to go on appointments. I mean, you're going to lead generate, lead follow up, but then the appointments are going to be buyer appointments. The negotiation, the contracts are going to be buyers. And then when you script a role play, it's buyer scripts.
Yeah, you got it. Okay. So Gary says, like anything else, real estate sales has its 20%. And the 20% of the MREA focuses on the 3 L's, which are leads, listings, and leverage. So I'm going to pull up my screen again and share so that you can see what this looks like and how it fits together. Okay. So you know the famous triangle from the MREA? Inside this triangle, we have think. Okay, so we're going to think $1 million. Then we're going to grow our business to where we net 1 million. I'm
We're
sorry,
going to gross it.
my apologize. It's earn, EARN. I was going down, not up. So it's earn $1 million, then it's net $1 million, and then it's receive $1 million. And these are the four ways that the MREA thinks. Now, around the outside of this is 3 L's: leads, listings, and leverage. And look at that, my dyslexia didn't even kick in today. So leads, listings, and leverage. Let's talk through what this really looks like. Gary says in the Red Book, to have a viable sales business, you simply must have the clients, you must have client leads. And to have a business that pays you a lot of money, you need a lot of leads. When we think about leads, in fact, Gary says it's helpful for you. You should think of yourself as being in the lead generation business first and the real estate business second. And his point is that we are all in two businesses. If you're a coffee shop, you're in the coffee business and you're in the business of getting customers to come in the door. If you're a law firm, you practice law and you still have to have customers. And Gary says in here, nothing else about your business will have as big of an impact on your business as the number of leads that you generate. And by the way, this is true for the market center also. So when it comes to the market center, if we have a vast pipeline of highly talented agents raising their hands saying that they want to be in the office, that's very different than us having to go hunt and chase. I want to make sure that that we understand we're all in the same. Miss Kennedy, you have your hand up.
Can you repeat that quote again that you said so I can make sure I jot it down? We're in the business of.
Yeah, so this is going to be on page 99. And Gary says, we must have leads. And in fact, it's helpful for you. You should think of yourself as being in the lead generation business. And he says, agents say, but I'm in the real estate business, to which he replies, fine, then try staying in the real estate business for very long without leads. And so we're all into business, our business of choice and the lead generation business. And by the way, I've given this book out to coffee shop owners, to ice cream shop owners. This is really about how do you grow a million dollar business in any industry. Gary says, when I teach new agent sales training, I would sometimes start my class discussion on leads by asking the audience, if I told you there was an out-of-town buyer who just got here this morning and who's going to pay cash and needs to purchase a home by the end of the week, could any of you help them out? And of course, everyone raises their hand. And he says, well, I can guarantee you there is a buyer getting in town today who has cash and needs to buy a home now. The problem is we don't know where they are or who the buyer is. And that is the leads challenge of the real estate agent. And this is why we always want to be lead generating, because we always need fresh leads coming into our business to keep our pipeline full. And Gary says, he goes on to say that in a prosperous market, there's usually many agents that rely on passive lead generation, which are casual referrals and luck to create their business. And Gary calls that lead receiving, not lead generating. He says, unfortunately, real estate agents who are in the business of lead receiving find themselves selling very few houses when the market shifts. And by the way, has the market shifted? Yeah. Do we have a lot of agents selling very few houses? Yes. And a lot of that is because in the good times, it was just come list me and come write offers for me. But our agents did not build a database, the 4 laws of lead generation, that allow them to continue to receive leads regardless of the market. Gary says, conversely, if you actively and systematically focus on lead generation through direct prospecting, then marketing activities, you will always be doing the best, even in a shifting market. So the catch is that lead generation is not something that can be turned on and off. And I always think about it this way. When I look at an agent's business, you tend to have what I call the real estate roller coaster. Okay. An agent starts doing what they're supposed to do. Okay. And I'm going to put a little ceiling of achievement here even. They start doing what they're going to do and they get busy servicing their business and they stop lead generating. And all of a sudden their business takes off. And then they go, whoa, I don't have any transactions. I need to get back in the game. And I'm going to lead generate. Oh, and now I'm servicing all my listings and I'm closing deals and I'm doing all this stuff. And then you have this kind of stuff that happens just over and over and over. Now, I'm sure that none of us know an agent like that, and yet we all know they are in our offices. So we have to make sure that we keep the focus on that lead generation at all times. This is why we teach lead generating from 9 to 11 daily, and we never allow anything unless it's a productivity specific class on the calendar during that time. This is also why, as market center leaders, we lead by example by lead generating from 9 until 11. And I love all the stop on lead generating 9 to 11 signs that are up in the offices. However, I'm going to tell you, I love it, Brad. Take it down at 11 o'clock because it sends the wrong message. Now you need to say, hey, I've done what I needed to do. Now I'm here for you. By the way, I was
Right.
here for you when I was lead generating 9 to 11 because I'm growing your opportunities in the market by creating more chances for you to take more listings, do more transactions in house. Okay. Got it. So,
There's your
so what's that? Yep, there it is. Okay, good. Love it. But that's why we model what we do for our agents. Now, can you ever have too many leads?
No.
No, we call that a high class problem. Too many leads is a good thing. Now agents have choices you did not have before. When lead generation models are consistently bringing more business than you think you can currently manage, that's when you know it's time to hire help, or you get to cherry pick the best and refer out. When an agent has 10 leads coming in, at that point, they may have a lot of like crummy fruit. They don't have the low hanging fruit, the really good ones. When they have 100 leads, guess what? In that 100, there's probably going to be some really, really good opportunities. So give me one or two ahas around the leads portion of this conversation. What did you hear? What stood out? What was important?
I'll go ahead. I loved, and actually I pulled my MREA and went ahead and put a paper clip on page 99 because I love the way that he worded that for my class today. It ties right into the material that we're going over. So the paragraph you said that everyone's in lead generation business. And I love that because I'll never forget a couple months ago when I was really getting into the meat and potatoes of this, I went to a restaurant and I looked around and I saw them doing the same exact things that we do and our agents do: retention and recruiting. How do I attract more customers to our restaurant, new customers that have never been, and how do I keep people coming back and make sure that the service is top notch? Every business is doing that, and it's no different in real estate for our agents.
Love it. Great aha. Great. By the way, if you pay attention at Keller Williams, you get an MBA in how to run a business at a high level. Sincerely. And by the way, how you build culture and how you coach, train, and consult. Good. One more aha.
I love the nuggets of the 80-20 rule and just that, that 20% leads, listing, and leverage. And
Good. Love that. Okay, good. All right. So let's dive into, let me go back to my screen share here. So let's go back. So we focus on leads. Leads are foundational to the business, and we have to be focused on leads first. Then it's listings. And listings in the early pages of, I believe it's on page 63, Gary talks about that listings are the high leverage gift from the real estate gods. Okay. He calls them high leverage, maximum earning opportunity. While leads are vital to a sales business, seller listings are critical to an agent's ability to build it to its highest level with the lowest cost and the highest net. So when you think about this, if every transaction has, so this is a house, Midwest, so we've got a little chimney on there. Every house has one buy side and one list side. And so you have the choice. And if you have a $200,000 house, would you want to focus on the buy side or the list side, and why? Live question.
List side,
Mhm.
Okay, why the list side?
because every listing should bring two buyers,
Okay, that is one of them.
and listing is leverage.
Listings are leverage. How so?
It doesn't take as many hours to service a listing as it does servicing a buyer. You can scale your business by focusing on listings.
Yes, you're spot on. So the average number of hours in a listing transaction, start to finish, this does not include, actually I take that back. This does include the TC work. The average number of hours in a listing was 31 hours. How many hours was there in an average buy-side transaction?
Please double that.
Yeah,
Then
52 hours. Okay. So seller listings mean marketing opportunities. You get to put your sign out in front of the yard. You get to market the listing through direct mail, email, MLS, and you get to advertise the listing through newspapers. So when you have listings, you're highly, highly visible. When you have buyers, no one knows. You don't have giant signs that say, I have a buyer. You do have giant signs that say, I have a listing. Second, you have more control over your time. There is usually not the same sense of do it right now urgency with sellers that buyers often have. Therefore, you should be able to control your schedule a little bit more. And I will tell you, as a real estate agent, I probably negotiated at least 300 offers from my boat. I would be typically at my lake house from Thursday until late Monday night, come home, and I would work Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and go right back up. Handle all the buyers during that period of time, and then listings would get negotiated from the boat. And you cannot do that with buyers. It's hard to be on the boat and be out showing a buyer at the same time. So seller listings maximize your per hour compensation because it takes less time to list homes than to handle buyers. Number 4, and this is all on page 102. In our experience, a highly focused, highly leveraged real estate agent can work 15 to 25 listings per month and keep it up. They can sustain it. However, the same agent would be very hard pressed to work with even 7 or 8 buyers per month and continue to do that over a long period of time. And I know that in my real estate sales business, our buyers agents use showing specialists, and a pot of 3 is what it took to typically handle somewhere between 8 and 12 buyers a month. So it took 3 people to do that when one agent can handle 25 listings. Lastly, properly marketed seller listings bring you more business. And to Rebecca's point, typically a listing will bring at least 2 additional buyers to the table. So you get to feed your pipeline. As I said, buyers present few, if any, marketing opportunities. And at best, buyers' clients get us in the field and ensure we're actively surveying the market. And they can generate referrals. However, at worst, an indecisive buyer can demand weeks, if not months, of our attention before buying, or worse, deciding just to wait till next year. The Millionaire Real Estate Agent grasped the incredible advantage of making, obtaining, and marketing seller listings as their primary lead generation focus, and they do it almost exclusively. In fact, over time, they will earn the right to hire 1 or more buyer specialists to work the buyer side of the transaction, and they will continue to focus their energy on the high return, high leverage business of listings. And once that's fine-tuned, they actually have the opportunity to hire a listing agent to even take over some of that activities. So in conclusion, listings are the second L of the 3 L's of the MREA. All of the MREA agents that were interviewed for this book they say that they reached their level of success as the result of their focus on seller listings first that led to repeat business. And so we want to make sure our agents make listings their primary focus. They'll help us gain more control over their time, money, and the rewards they reap from the efforts will be the highest they could possibly be. Focusing on listings helps our agents be more profitable. Heather.
I just wanted to kind of go back to where you said over time they were hire 1 or more buyer specialists to work the buy side of the business. I just wanted to point this out because I actually had a conversation with one of my mastery clients this year, and she was bragging that 90% of her business was sellers. And I had to kind of like pull it back in and say, well, that's good for you because it allows you to do your units, but you're really giving away a whole lot of that buy side business you shouldn't be giving away by only doing 90% because you should be capturing them, whether you're leveraging them out. But I think this is a key thing for when we're looking at our bigger teams and we're seeing like what is their split between how many buyers and how many sellers. If they're doing a high selling inventory, we need to be having the conversation about hiring a showing assistant and then
Yes,
a buyer's agent. I just
just
wanted to point
like
that out.
Yeah, that's great. Just like in a market center, in a market center, our business should be 50-50 because again, if we're properly reflecting the market, then we're going to be, pull this back up. If we're properly reflecting the market, then we have equal buy side than less sides. And the agent team is the same. So if you have a team that's 90%, they actually have lost opportunity income on the buyer side. That's probably a staggering number, especially in this market. Okay, it's great point, Heather. Lastly, it's leverage, and I'm going to kind of move through this quickly so that we get you out of here fairly close on time. So it's leverage. Leverage is the who, the how, and the what of real estate. And Gary says the interesting thing about the third L, leverage, is that if you focus on the first two L's first, and you do a great job, you'll eventually have no choice but to either make less money or jump into being leveraged. And the concept here is that no one succeeds alone. Once you reach a level of success, you will need help. And leverage comes in the form of people first and systems second. Gary says, in fact, as an agent, until you've maxed out what you can accomplish through focus on leads and listings, you should not be hiring another person. Why? Because of red light, green light. You do it when you need it. And red light, green light says, are we holding our dollars accountable for an appropriate rate of return? Now, I see agents wanting to hire buyer's agents before admin. The problem with that, yeah, Heather's shaking her head. The problem with that is you just generate more chaos and paperwork and details, and there's no one to do it, and your customer service fails miserably in that case.
And you're giving away half of, usually they're doing a 50% split, which is wrong, but that's giving away literally half of their income.
You are absolutely correct. You are giving away half of your income, and typically a buyer's agent is going to be on not more than a 40% split. And by the way, my showing specialists were on a 15% split. So my total cost of sale with a buyer's agent and a listing buyer's agent and a showing specialist was 42.5%, which is right in line with your 30, 30, 40. The reason I was okay with being a little high is that we could do so much business with our model that when you have a team of 3 that can do 8 to 14 units a month, like you're churning and burning. We're moving. And so back to this, leverage answers 3 key questions: who's going to do it, which are the people, how will they do it, the systems, and what they will do it with, the tools. Now, the challenge is to add the right people, because the impact of people can be positive or negative depending on who they are and what they do. Great talent is irreplaceable. In fact, great talent even meets or exceeds your standards and has the capacity to grow with you in the business. Poor hires, on the other hand, can do a lot of damage. And we used to do the cost of a bad hire at the beginning of Recruit, Select, and Career Visioning. And for the most part, the cost of a bad hire in most cases was between $1 million and $2 million when it came to the tangible and the intangible outcomes of hiring the wrong person. And so this is where, when our agents go, hey, I'm going to hire Sally Sue, the neighbor's daughter, to be my admin, we all have to go, stop, time out, let's have a conversation. Let's go through the career visioning process and make sure that we hire the right person and that we really make sure that they're a great behavioral fit in the role. So good is good and great is great, Gary says. And although good can really help, great can actually change your business forever. Gary says, never underestimate the importance of the first hire. We found that great administrators have the ability to run a real estate business and may eventually actually become the person who takes the agent's place when they move on to receive $1 million. The way that I look at this is the first hire is the executive assistant. And over time, they earn the right to become the assistant executive or to move into that CEO role that on page 202 oversees everyone else in the organization and runs the business. And a couple of great examples of that is Rebecca Rose was absolutely that way. She moved into an administrative position and she ran Mark King's empire in many, many ways. Ebby Holiday in Dallas, Texas. Many of you guys know Ebby. Heather knows her from Women's Council of Realtors. Ebby's first hire was Mary Frances. And today, when this book was written 30 years later, Mary Frances was president of Ebby Holiday Realtors, which was a thriving business of 25 offices throughout Dallas. So your first step to leverage will be administrative help, who will eventually help create and implement the systems. And those are the repeatable processes that allow us to duplicate and magnify the results. Only after you have great administrative help, who in turn brings the systems and the tools, and they've helped grow your business to a point where there are more clients than you can handle, do you begin the process of hiring sales personnel. So typically you want to have the admin, you typically want to have the transaction coordinator, which by the way, in our case, we have transaction coordination companies in all of our offices. So that can be a great leverage point for the agents. And then of course, typically that first hire is typically a showing assistant who matures into a full-fledged buyer's agent. The MREA talks about talent as being either cul-de-sac talent or capacity talent. Cul-de-sac, sorry, the fire alarms are going off here. Cul-de-sac talent goes so far and then they just spin in a circle like the spinning wheel of death on your computer. And we've all experienced that. Capacity talent, on the other hand, will continue to improve. They will continue to grow. They will continue to make your business better. They will bring you ideas where cul-de-sac talent wants you to provide the ideas. And again, if they're bringing you the problems, they're probably cul-de-sac talent. We want people that solve problems. So people are the most powerful form of leverage. So hire carefully. Seek those who can exceed your standards and don't settle for less. This is on page 107. Whenever you add an additional person, you must hold that individual accountable for bringing a corresponding positive growth. Only after each new piece of leverage, be it people, systems, or tools, is magnificent, do you earn the right to move on to the next role. So when you find you've maximized your personal productivity and you've hit a ceiling of achievement, it's time to think about adding the appropriate leverage to break through to that next level. All right, that concludes leads, listings, and leverage for this week. Give me a couple of ahas around either listings or leverage. What did you hear that stood out? What was important or significant?
I'll share something. You know, you talk about the amount of time with listings versus buyers. I was more heavier on the listing side than I was on the buyer side, but I always kept the buyer pool because they taught me the most. And they also got me into a lot of homes. So when I would go on a listing appointment, now my area was small, you know, I could say I've been in that list, I can compare. But what I also found, Brian, was when I look back, you know, year end, I got more referrals from buyers than I did from sellers, because with buyers, I nurtured and cultivated that relationship day after day after day after day. And it's all they talked about, right? They'd go to work, they talk about their friends, they talk Darlene. So I ended up getting more opportunity for sellers and buyers through my buyers just because of the time that I spent with them. So while the listings generated more ROI for me, I was able to continue to build a business by working with those buyers.
Yeah.
It's a tough balance too.
It is a balance, and I see your hand up, Elise. I actually I was at a open house in 1996. It was one of my listings, and I met someone. 52 pieces of business from that couple's referrals, family, coworkers. It was insane, and the tree of everyone that came from that one relationship was crazy. Miss Elise.
Yes, thank you. Oh, I'm on. Okay. So the last statement actually or the last thing that you were just going over as it relates to your capacity talent, to your cul-de-sac talent, and certainly that, you know, drives home for me. And I'll say, and not that this was planned, but Marielle falls into the capacity talent within the short period of time that she's been here and bringing amazing ideas and thoughts and implementations, and it really does make a difference. So I love how you categorized those two statements.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you. And congrats, Marielle.
Thank
I
you.
would share the sentiment. Working with great talent is fun. Working with not so great talent is work. Okay, Heather.
I'm gonna piggyback on that for a second, and then I have one other thing. But so here's the interesting thing on that, Elise, though, and this has nothing to do with Mariella, by the way. But what I see on teams a lot is you can have a person that's capacity, and then as you build your team bigger, they become cul-de-sac. They can't grow at the same level, and that's where it gets really confusing for people, because they knew that this person was doing everything and was great and talent, and then They were good here, they're just not good here. So that's one thing. And then the other thing that I wanted to point out is, I don't know if you guys all heard of it. Brian was talking about the numbers, and here's what, 42% is what my buy side got, and here, and he's going through all this. I think those are important things to understand, is that our agents don't actually understand any of that. They literally don't get the numbers of a business, right? Like, for anybody that went to How to Run a Business Like a Business that Bob Kalinske taught, like, he talks about that in there, is that there's a different mindset for practitioners versus people who are running a business. So I think that's a really good lesson for all of us, that our jobs as staff is to actually teach them how to run a business, how to look at things differently, because they're just looking at it like, oh, I'll just go hire somebody. I'll give you 50%. Let's go do it. But when you give a buyer's agent 50%, what you're actually doing is stagnating yourself at that level, because you can't pay for anybody that's going to be your lead buyer's agent, or any ISAs, or any other things. You can't pay for them because you just gave away half your money to the first person.
Yep. Hold every dollar accountable for an incremental return. That's it. Good stuff. All right. Well, I know we're a few minutes over. I appreciate that. I want to encourage you guys. And before I say this, are there any other ahas? Anything else that Brad's recruits here, go work with your recruit? Any other ahas you guys have? Cool. All right. So I want to encourage you, really dive in and learn this material. Make it be a part of you. I have not looked who's presenting next week.
There
All right, Marielle,
in.
awesome, fantastic. So you are welcome to use PowerPoints. You're welcome to do polls. Anything that you guys need, let me know, and we'll make sure that we set it up for you so you have a great experience. And I just want to commend you guys for your time. That's the greatest gift you can give. And I want to commend you for studying this. The part of the power of this material is that the conversations that you have with your agents can change their life forever. And all of a sudden, when you learn it, it's in you, it comes out of you in the conversations. You're going to look up, and 3 or 5 or 10 years later, you're going to have produced top producers, and they're going to look back and they're going to say, I'm where I am because of the conversation I have, or I'm where I am because of something you taught me. And we're all just an extension of Gary. So let's make sure that we're doing the maximum that we can to know the material so we can go and change as many lives as we possibly can. So with that, we appreciate your time. We will get you back to your day. Have a
Thank
great
you,
one,
Brian.
everyone. Thank you so much.
Have a good
Thank
evening.
you.
Cheers, everybody.